Afternoon, friends. Today we're working on a 63 Nova, and this guy had bought this car for a pretty good price. This thing's like immaculate. We gotta check this thing out. I'll let you see this. Yeah, look at this car, man. This thing's awesome. It's a 420 cubic inch small block. It's got a front frame section in it. Full suspension, Willwood brakes all the way around. But this thing was sanded down to bare metal, all stainless bolts. The side trim's kind of nice with the black. Look at the interior, man. All new rubber. The gauges. Look at that, man. You got a really good deal for this thing. He was told the guy that he bought it from, this guy that owns it, his name is Dave, and the guy he bought it from said that he had put 60 grand into this car, which isn't hard to do, but it looks like it's a really nice job. It's got 411 gears in it, new springs, new everything. I think you got a good deal on this, but of course, like any hot rod, there are a couple things, derail fans, and like any kind of a hot rod like this, you got a few things. When he bought it, it had stalled on him and he had to tow it home. Had a charging problem, so I think we got that resolved. It looked like the charging wire on the alternator was a little loose, and it just ran out of battery power, and so we got that worked out, and it seems to be running fine. But it's got this cogged drive belt system on it for the alternator. Since it's already on here, I'll see if we can make it work, but it keeps throwing the belt off, and I noticed the alternator is shifting crooked. And on this low mount, you know, Chevys usually mount up here somewhere in the top area, but this one's a low mount with only 2 bolts to hold it, and I think it's allowing it to flex. But all the kits that are designed with low mount come with just the 2-bolt standoffs, and that's it. And there really isn't a spot to put a third unless I run it in up here somewhere to maybe a motor mount or something bolt. But see what I can do. See, here's the alternator with the cog belt. So the belt is always trying to ride off the front of this thing, and it tries to run off of the front. And I'll show you. See, here's the bracket. He brought it to another shop first, and the bracket was cracked, so they made this one. It goes in behind it like this, and then it sandwiches the alternator between it. You can see this one's cracked now too, right here. So I'm going to make a new one. I had this plate laying around. Wish I had a little thicker steel. That's probably 3/16. And what happened here is because of this sharp angle in here, this is a stress riser right here, and this is where it's cracking, right in that section. So I'm going to try to make it more of a V shape the best I can to clear the alternator. Maybe a little more meat around the edges. And even the alternator tends to flex, like the bolt that runs through it and the pivot, just a little on the small side. So I might be able to put it all in there so it fits a little tighter, because every time you rev that car up, you see the alternator twist and the belt tries to run off the front of it. If I can't get that cog belt system to work, a friend of mine has a billet aluminum pulley kit for it that'll go fine with that car, and put a V-belt back on it. As everybody knows, V-belts they're proven that they work just fine. But yeah, this thing's really impressive, man. There really isn't any room for a booster on here, so it is disc brakes, but it's manual disc, which is just fine. It just needs a little more pedal effort. Not much of an option you can do there unless you run some kind of hydro boost or something like that. And then it is manual steering, not power, but you could always put, if we wanted power without changing the rack, you could put electric power steering in it. And but this car's pretty light. I would think that it should steer fine with just the manual. Yeah, this thing is just super nice. All right, so looks like I'll get to it. I'll carve out a new bracket and try to make it as perfect as I can. Try to improve the standoff so the bolts don't flex too much. See what I can come up with. quickly without spending all day on it. See if I can come up with something to save that belt system. And I'll be back. General outline of the new bracket. You can see how much beefier it is than the original one. So I got it to where it'll clear just enough on the back to clear that alternator, because it'll be sitting more like that. So I need as much meat as I can get in between here, the stress riser, and here. I think that'll be fine. And then, you know, the longer that it stands out from the body, the more that it can flex. Not much I can do that with these standoffs. So I'm going to center it up, and I will weld these standoffs to the back plate. And that'll be one less area that can move around. I think that'll help as well. Not much I can do with these. But these are what go against the block. Get more of a footing on the block so it won't flex so much. It still may not work, but I'm going to try this first. Okay, so I got this thing started, and here was how the belt was riding. Let's see. Right here it tends to ride on the front side of this pulley. I'd like it to be more centered. So I'm not quite done with it yet. And these cog type belts, you have to run them loose because this thing will tighten up real tight when it gets warm. But so I got to adjust the bracket and swing this way a tiny bit to get that belt to move back some. So far it's not throwing it, but I just would like to have a little gap in between if I can. And then so the rear mount, I guess I didn't have to grind so much out of it. This alternator is not even anywhere near it. I could have had more meat down there, but I can fix that. But yeah, I crank it up. This thing will hardly even run at all. It's spitting, backfiring, popping through the carburetor. So I just kind of guessed, cranked up the timing a little bit, got rid of that lean pop sound, and then I'm messing with it, and I reach back here. They usually have two vacuum lines in the front and one big port in the back for like power brakes, and that large port, vacuum port, is wide open, and it's a big plug like one of these things. So I got some of these. Oh, that small one will fit. Unbelievable. And I guess this thing was just out of shop for this bracket problem, and they said it was running lean, and they did some carb adjustments and stuff like that, and yeah, it was lean all right, but they missed that vacuum port there, and then I had to richen up the idle mixer screws quite a bit too to get it to even idle at all. Well, let's see what it'll do now. Woo! Crazy throttle response. Well, now I probably won't run at all now. Now I got to reset everything. Oh yeah, I won't even idle, period. I got to raise the idle back up. I had to crank it down quite a bit. Okay, let's try that. Little more. It's always good to have dual springs here for safety. If one broke, you still have the other. It's staying on there. I'd still like to move it back in here though. Wow, what a difference. Oh, he's gonna freak out, man. Listen to that. This carbon fiber dash is so awesome. It's got lighted turn signals, billet column. This car is like super nice. This thing is awesome. That looks so good. Look at the shifter. Man. Oh, listen to that thing. It sounds good. Big 9-inch diff. Oh, throttle response is insane now. When it threw the belt the first time or two, it probably stretched it on one end, so I flipped it around the other way hoping it would pull it back. But I can make adjustments to that bracket. Bracket seems more solid than it was before. Oh, you see sparks from the thing's got to be over 100 amps. Wow, that's awesome. Oh, he's gonna love it now, man. He said the drivability was really bad on it when he pressed on the gas. Yeah, I don't have the power wire. It's only hand tight, so we're shooting sparks out of it. Wow! Oh, there goes my finger. All right. Always got to burn something. This is why I keep a bucket of water around. It's to cool off parts. And it's to cool off my finger. Oh. You always got to have one of these around. Oh, there we go. Much better. It won't blister if you cool your hand off right away. Alright. And don't ask me how I know. I've done it a million times. Where I go and grind a part or weld on a part, and then immediately take off my glove and grab it with my bare hand. Yep, I don't know what that's all about. Alright, so, alright, I'm going to see if I can oblong this just a hair and twist it back some. It looks like it's, actually I can see it, it's just a hair crooked compared to the pulley. Usually what I'll do, I can measure the belt alignment. I'll get a straight edge like this one that I have, or anything you can find. Being that these belts, they're not perfectly centered, this one sits back farther than that, makes it a little more difficult. But I put the flat on the balancer, and then I'll just measure between inner and outer on that pulley. But even eyeballing it, it looks pretty good. It could be a little in the hair on the front, so if I twisted the back that way a hair, I bet it would center that belt a little better. This cog belt seems to be pulling on this thing a lot harder than a V-belt does. So just remember, some of these companies, you know, they build this kind of stuff not necessarily because it's better. It's for appeal, it's for looks. So nothing wrong with a V-belt or even a serpentine belt. V-belts work. If you run a V-belt with a small idler on it just to keep it from flopping around, it won't jump off. I do that on my race cars, and I never have a V-belt jump off or flip over or do anything. And alright, so I'll do that and I'll be back. Alright, so I got this thing back in here. Here's the new bracket. It's now a one piece with the standoffs welded on the back, and I got the lineup looking pretty good. I can't seem to get the belt to run back any farther because this pulley has a cutout in the front of it to where the front of the belt's supposed to kind of roll into a little bit, is my idea, to keep it from rolling off the front. So there's no way I can get this belt to position any different than it is. But it's not coming off, so I'm going to leave it alone. Usually these belts, you check them when they're hot, because it will get a lot tighter than this when it's hot. But so that's done. Man, I can't believe that the 63 is done. Oh, it took me all day to finish this thing. So what I ended up having to do, I got the ignition problem figured out, and the timing worked out, the distributor and the carburetor, all that worked out, and the thing runs great now. The belt quits throwing the belt. That's done. Then the brakes, he wasn't kidding, those things went right to the floor, so I bled the air out of them. Looked like that hadn't been done. But then it's got disc brakes on the rear, aftermarket disc brake kit. So there were some shims and some things that needed to be done to kind of center everything up and make it work right, because you'd have to pump the pedal to get a good pedal. And so I was able to get that worked out, and now it's got a great pedal, and now the parking brake works, everything works. So that's it. And I love these emblems on here, those are nice. And yeah, this thing's immaculate. I really like this car. Yep, and I guess that's it for today. There it goes. Yeah, sounds good now.